Right, it brings me a great pleasure to introduce today Simon Maryan, who is a former Royal Marine, former Special Forces, close protection, human intelligence specialist, and now you are an author, a trainer, a coach, a psychotherapist, psychologist, amongst many other things. So thank you for taking time out of your day and to talk about all things resilience, mindset, and what it takes to be a Royal Marine and so much more. So, can you just sort of say a bit more about yourself, Simon, and your background?
Sure, thanks, Claire. It's I always say I've an interesting background. I've been around the bazaars a few times, and I've done more than some and less than others. So it's that's kind of the way I sum it up, really. Yeah, I joined I joined the Marines really young. I think if I hadn't joined the Corps, I'd probably have gone to jail. In all honesty, I've been kicked out of three schools by that point. So I think I needed channeling, and it was definitely the right environment to go to. It was the best education I'd had by far at that point. So yes, I owe an awful lot to the Royal Marines in terms of channeling my energy constructively.
Was you, because you was at boarding school, wasn't you? Was that
Yeah, yeah.
purely because you were quite a handful as a child?
No, because my dad was in the Royal Marines, and
Yeah.
then when he left, he was a helicopter pilot, and he did a civvy conversion course, and then flew commercially for oil and gas. So we went to Shetland, came to Aberdeenshire, and then it was Far East, Middle East, Africa. So I
Mm.
went to boarding school um, to have some stability, really.
Yeah. So was it something it was expected, or you just thought I'm going to be a Marine anyway?
I think I'd known from an early. I always knew really that what I wanted to do.
Mm.
I had a. I think it was in my blood, really. There's
Yeah.
a there's a there's a there's a track record of government sponsored hooliganism in my family, my dad's side in particular, that I know about,
Yeah.
uh, and a considerable number of them were in the Royal Marines as well. So yeah, so family of hooligans.
Because we were actually introduced by a mutual friend of ours who's a former Royal Marine, Craig Kinnaman. So I'm interested in the mindset of what it takes to become a Marine, for both the physical and the mental side of it, and how much how tough it is to get into the Marines.
Well, I think the old advert used to sum it up really nicely. It was 99.9% need not apply.
Mm, yeah.
And that they changed that because the world has gone bloody soft, and it put people off, bless them. Oh no, I don't,
Yeah,
oh, I'll never be that. Well, you won't if you fucking don't try. So
exactly. Yeah.
if it's, there's a lot of people do try, and there's a lot of people don't get through because they decide to leave,
Mm,
they get injured and they can't continue,
mm,
or they get injured and they get back trooped, and they go to a troop they go into what it's now called Hunter Company, which is the rehabilitation
yeah.
company within commando training, and so people can get delayed, and the people get binned because they can't make the grade. I think everybody, as we spoke just now, I think everybody's majority of people are physically capable of doing it. It's
Mm,
it's the mental side, and dealing with that, dealing with being cold, tired, hungry, in pain,
mm.
utterly bloody miserable, and loving it.
So at what point, I mean, yeah, I mean, we're all human. Some of us
Yeah.
probably a bit more superhuman than others. When you were going through your training, what was the actual pass rate that actually got the made the grade?
I think it's something like 30%.
Wow. Yeah.
I think it's something like that. Well, what it is now, I think it was around about 30% would get through.
Yeah.
I think there was. 68, 69 people in my troop when I started training, I think. And there was about, I think there was about maybe 10, 12 originals at the
Mm.
end. Um, so yeah, so it's a hard slog, and it's, and rightly so. It's not meant to be easy.
Mm.
You need the sort of people who can take the punishment, take the psychological and the emotional and physical abuse when it's stacked one on top of the other over a longer period of time, to be able to take it squarely on the chin, laugh at it, and go, okay, what's next?
Was there a point so in your training? I know we're probably going back a while, but was there a point? Not saying anything about your age, Simon, but
No,
we're
nothing. No.
actually very close in age anyway. But was there a point that you can remember in training that you thought, I can't do this, or was there a
Oh
point that
God, yeah. No,
yeah,
no, no. There was regular occasions. Usually, the only time you had peace and quiet on your own was sat on the throne. That was
yeah,
the only you could shut yourself in the little cubicle and sit there with your head,
yeah,
elbows on your knees, head in your hands, going, "What the fuck am I doing here?
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't do this." And then you kind of sit there and you wallow in your own self-pity for a little while, and you think, "Shut the fuck up. Get on
mm,
with it. This
yeah,
is what you've always wanted. Just get on with it. If you want to bail, bail. But I know I know I don't want to bail. I know this is what I've always wanted. I've always wanted this bloody thing
oh yeah,
on
yeah,
my head and the
yeah,
right to wear it.
yeah.
And I couldn't let my dad down either.
Yeah, yeah. So it wasn't just about sort of you, it was about it's that one, you don't want to let yourself down because you have to live with that you
Yeah.
gave up, but obviously letting the family down as well. Which do you think would have been the hardest?
For me, I think it would have been letting my dad down, not getting through.
Yeah,
And no, there was absolutely zero pressure from him, nothing at all. He would have been happy if I hadn't joined as much as he was happy that I did.
yeah,
Uh, I think I would have put more pressure on myself and kicked myself more for my perception of letting my dad down,
mm,
not getting through training and earning this little greeny beanie.
yeah.
Um,
So that day when you actually passed out, then
mhm.
what's actually going through your mind?
Thank fuck for that.
Yeah, probably something like
To be
that.
honest, yeah, no,
Yeah.
and so chuffed, so proud
Mm,
to be a part of that club.
yeah.
There's only ever about 5,500 Royal Marines serving at any one time, so it's a small community,
Mm,
uh, and it's rightly hard to get through. And by the time you get to your commando tests at the end of training, pretty much everyone's carrying an injury of some sort. I know
yeah.
guys who did the 30 mile with broken feet, shin splints with their tibias were about to break.
Mm,
I had a swollen knee, left knee, and other people, everyone's hobbling, but you very become, certainly by that point, you know, you're very, very good at switching off pain, compartmentalizing what's going on, and knuckling down to get on with the task at hand. And that's what is needed,
mm,
to be able to push yourself to the extreme and still do the job at the end of it.
mm,
Because that's the whole point, is you've got to be physically capable and mentally capable at the end of doing a 30 miler with like 30, 40 pound on your back
yeah.
and your weapon, and still be able to do the job. So yeah, it's, you can feel rightly proud of yourself, but you get to the top of the tree at Commander Training Center by passing out and finishing your tests and doing King Squad and all that sort of crap. And then you get to unit and you're back in the basement again.
So where did you go for your first unit?
I went to 4-2 Commando down in Plymouth.
Yeah. And
Um,
then so where were you deployed?
uh, Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Did Norway, did jungle training out in Brunei,
Mm,
um, and then a whole bunch of other places. Yeah, when Middle East, Caribbean,
mm,
Mediterranean, cross training with other, a lot of cross training with other troops,
yeah.
a lot of exercises and mucking about, and yeah, served in quite a few places. So it's Balkans and all the rest of it. So
Mm.
yeah,
So where was so you how long were you actually in the Marines?
Uh, 12 years.
12 years, yeah. And then where did you go from there?
Uh, I after the Marines, I then I went. I was my last little bit. I went on and did some human intelligence work.
Mm,
So from there, I went on and did some other training courses and did other bits and pieces and worked predominantly on my own.
yeah,
Really, to be honest, in that line of work, I was my job was to recruit assets, to recruit people to provide information.
yeah.
And I worked with handlers who I would do that piece, and then they get passed on to a handler, and I would go off and do something else, which is good because I had after I left the military and I was doing that, I had the freedom because I was contracting. I had the freedom to do other things in between.
So was the close protection work, was that contract?
Yeah, that was all just kind of in while I wasn't doing one thing, I could do the other, which
Yeah,
was so
yeah.
that's
I
where I
bet,
can.
yeah, I bet there's some very interesting stories that you probably can't even share.
There's one or two. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you were also hostage negotiator, was you?
Yes, I did a hostage negotiation course.
Mm,
I did so I've been in is it a fortunate position? I suppose it is in hindsight, not at the time, but so I've rescued hostages, I've negotiated the release of, and I've been a hostage, um,
mm.
which is stupid, really. Having we are testing all theories.
Seeing it from both sides, I suppose.
Yeah,
Mm. So you've been hostage 3 times. I bet you didn't get any ribbing off the guys from that.
none at all. No, absolutely none. and and uh and some comments off people who I don't know of, I've never met, saying, "Well, you're shit at your job, then, aren't you?"
So it was 3 times, and I think from what I understand on sort of looking into your background a little bit, three very, very different sort of
Yeah.
like situations of so tell us about the first time.
First time it was in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Uh, got taken off a ship
Mm,
in the middle of the night. Myself and one other guy, and it was I think it was about 11:45 at night, something
mm,
like that. And there's three boatloads of Nigerian gentlemen with weapons, and I was unarmed and had to rely on Nigerian Navy and a couple of Nigerian Army lads on this ship, um, who unfortunately were wholly ineffective because they hid.
yeah, that's not good. Yeah, that
Yeah,
wouldn't
no,
have
no,
went
not
well
really
for you.
helpful.
Yeah.
I knew what was happening. I knew what was happening because I'd been in Nigeria for a little while, and I'd been
Mm,
involved where it on ships where other people had been kidnapped. So I kind of knew the routine,
mm.
but I happened to be in the right place at the right time once and go for a little holiday, which was weird. So get taken off, basically like a Hessian sack
Mm.
shoved over my head, which stank.
Mm.
It basically stank of diesel.
Oh,
It was honking. So I had that shoved on my head, hands tied, shoved in the bottom of uh, a speedboat, just a long, narrow thing.
mm.
Uh, a skiff is what they call it.
Yeah.
Um, and then off into the night to shore, and it was only a couple of miles offshore, wasn't very far.
Mm.
Then up the river, up the tributaries. Try and say that I speak English, Um, to for God knows how long, like an hour and a half or whatever, into the arse end of nowhere,
Mm.
and got to this little beach and a jetty, and got off and taken out, untied us and took these sacks off our heads, and then it was from shitting your pants when you got guys with a GPMG and AK-47s, all the rest of it stuck
Mm.
in your face. yelling and screaming at you, uh, to then going, listen, really sorry, no problem with you. We're just using you to as a way to get money and to make a political statement against the government for their greed and the oil companies for trashing our land and polluting it.
Wow.
So we're not going to hurt you. We basically want to swap you for money.
So in that time, then you're taken off the ship and that.
Yeah.
What's going through your head, or you've got to be playing out all these scenarios really
Oh God,
quickly.
yeah. Your mind's going a million miles an hour.
Yeah,
At that point, the kidnapping, the phase of kidnappings was kind of in its infancy again. It's been going through cycles through the years, and
yeah,
this was early stages again of it picking back up. And we knew that they weren't killing people; it was just kidnap for ransom. So pretty safe bet that you were going to walk away from it,
yeah,
necessarily unscathed, but you'd walk away alive because you knew that a ransom would get paid.
mm,
So pretty confident, but it doesn't stop your mind racing all over the place, thinking
mm,
of, okay, right, how many ways can this play out? What can I
yeah.
do with each one? So I'm playing what if in my head, laid in this boat face down with my head face bashing off the bloody
Mm. So
off the
how long
boat,
did this go on for then? The kidnap?
held for 9 days.
Yeah.
But this was, it wasn't what I expected it to be at all.
Mm,
They said, right, listen, we're not gonna hurt you. We're gonna take good care of you because we don't want you to, we don't want any backlash for a start.
mm,
But also, a problem's not with you. We're not, the point is not to hurt you. So they gave us a hut to sleep in, mattress, mosquito nets, malaria tablets, fed us 3 times a day. Um, we ate when they ate, basically, and we ate,
wow.
we ate with them after the first couple of days.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I didn't really trust them to start with because yeah, whatever. Um, but after a couple of days, they kind of eased into it and kind of started to trust a little bit more and engaged a bit more. And I ended up playing football with the kids. I ended up to the point where I was cleaning and servicing their weapons because they were in a right state. Um, so it was
We just didn't want a misfire or anything.
no, no, no. I just wanted to make it's an engaging and talking about families and playing with the kid. It humanizes you. It makes you more likable. You build rapport, and there's even less chance that they'll want to hurt you.
Yeah. So who paid the ransom then?
I have no idea.
Wow.
I know it was paid because there was a big bag of cash at the end that was swapped over between, and we got off one boat, and it was passed on to the one we were on.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, but that was the worst part is the water is Nigeria is a strange place. Water
Mm,
comes in bags and peanuts comes in bottles. Go figure. But the water was more expensive than the local beer. The local beer is Star beer. It's a very chemically brewed thing,
yeah.
and it's bad enough when it's ice cold. But we had it warm for 9 days because it was cheaper to give us that than the water, and they wanted to keep the water for themselves. Fair
Did you
enough.
have a 9-day hangover?
9 day hangover. So I was, yeah, a 9 day bender uh, on shitty beer.
Holiday. It's on holiday, isn't
Yeah, well, yeah.
it?
When we got released at the end and we got debriefed back in Lagos, they
Yeah.
then took us out on the piss. So it's like,
Did the beer get better though?
the beer was much better. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was cold, it was nice, and went for a Chinese, as you do.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the second time was a slightly different experience.
Yes, again in Nigeria,
Mm,
uh, different different capacity.
mm,
Um, and on this occasion, there was myself and 4 other people,
mm,
um, and it was just a completely different vibe from the get-go.
mm,
Uh, Similar scenario. Um, Grabbed, taken into the swamps and to a village. And this time, small hut, 5 of us in it, lobbed in, nothing. one bottle of water a day, one small meal a day. And this one lasted 35 days.
Wow.
And it was pretty quiet for the first 3 weeks.
Mm.
And then it got to, yeah, after 3 weeks, they got pissed off not receiving their ransom money.
Mm.
This is very much criminal activity, just a criminal gang. Whereas the first lot were part of a group called MEND, the Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a kind of a political, almost like, I guess, kind of a paramilitary group, if you like, to a degree, because of their weapons and their obviously the kidnappings and stuff like that. And they would have running gun battles with the local military and police and all the rest of it. But this lot was just criminal activity. They were just scumbags. And nothing did bugger all. I had no interaction with them really for the first 3 weeks, and then it got nastier and nastier because they got pissed off waiting for their money. They were getting more at night, in particular. They were drinking more. They were taking more drugs, and they were getting really, really antsy towards us.
So what was
And
their drug of choice out there then? Coke.
I'm not really sure what it was, to be
Mm.
honest. Probably some coke, lots of alcohol, and whatever they were taking, it made them very aggressive. I mean, they were
Mm.
they were in an aggressive frame of mind anyway because they were pissed off. So it just heightened it,
Yeah.
and they started taking us out one by one, giving us a bit of a kick in, throw back in. Then they'd take all of us out. They'd do the same thing. They'd do mock executions with pistols and AK-47s, sticking it to your head, or they'd kick you in the chest, knock you on your back, uh, stand on you, and shove a barrel of an AK down the back of your throat. Sometimes they wouldn't have a magazine on, so unless they had one round in the chamber.
Mm.
Um, but the likelihood was slim, but not impossible.
Yeah.
So that was, that actually over a few days got me like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
But the worst part was the getting beaten with a machete, and they were hitting you with the flat side of it, just to smacking you around with it. And that not only does it really hurt,
Yeah.
all you needed was a slight twist, and they'd been taking big chunks out of you. So and then the I suppose the cherry on the cake was the hole they dug in the ground, and they'd tie your hands behind your back, tie your feet together, stick you in the hole, which was just over shoulder width apart
Mm.
in diameter, stick you in head first, so just your feet sticking out, and then they'd use it as a toilet all day.
Oh my God. Yeah. So these people that you were with,
Yeah,
had you been working with them previous to this?
they were just in the same vicinity as me. Yeah, so
Mm. So with the so did they have military background as well or not?
no, they didn't know.
All right, so they were civilians
Yeah,
and wow.
and yeah,
Mm.
so part of what got me through it was helping to get them through it, keeping them
Mm.
on an even keel as much as possible,
Mm.
teaching them the things that I knew that I was using for myself to keep everybody together and keep everyone, so that as everyone was having their highs and lows, there was always at least one person who was on and up who could help
Mm.
bring everybody back up again, and remind everybody we'd sit and use these techniques together.
Mm.
Kind
So
of
how did this come to an end then?
similar thing. Just one day woke up, was right, get in a boat. Didn't say why. We thought, oh, we're gonna get taken away, up the
Mm.
river, shot and left in the river for the crocs.
Mm.
But no, we went upriver, actually to the same town in Bielsa State. Um, Stopped short of it, and got out. They got money, we got out, and off they went.
Mm. So do you keep in touch with the other guys that you were? No. So how does, obviously there'd be significant sort of like trauma or whatever to move past that? Was that just, is that immediate, or is it something that you just to go, oh well, off to the next, or is it something that you have to process it, go into counselling or whatever, or do you
Well, I
just?
didn't sleep very well after that one.
No, I'm not surprised.
Uh,
Mm,
yeah, there's a lot of very short sleeps and
yeah,
disturbance.
yeah.
Uh, I guess because I've had training in how to
Mm,
deal with these things, these situations, as much as you ever can until you never know until it really happens as to
yeah.
how you're going to respond to it. But the training's good. It does
Mm,
prepare you to a certain degree, more so with the military environment because it's a different scenario to being on your own
mm,
and having no backup.
yeah.
You're unarmed, you've got no backup, there's no one there to help you. You just literally got to roll with it. And both those situations in Nigeria, there's no point in trying to escape because I didn't know where I was in the first place.
Mm,
And I'm basically just in enemy territory the whole time. So trying to get away, I no doubt I would have bumped into some other bunch of buggers who would have done the same thing. So
yeah.
frying pan into fire didn't really work in my head. So I thought I just, stay put and ride it out.
Yeah. So with the third time, God, you've been unlucky.
Yeah, it's no wonder I retired from all that shit, isn't it really?
Yeah, it was like, so the third time, what happened that in this instance?
It's the third time I was working in Sweden.
Hmm.
Uh,
Was this this private work?
this was contract work, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Hmm.
working with this guy, um, and he was in the islands outside of Stockholm, east of Stockholm, visiting family, and uh, we'd been trained up to detect if he was being surveilled and
Hmm.
followed. So he pinged that he had been. He let me know, and I said, "Right, I'll check it out." I went out, followed, and confirmed. Yeah, okay, yes, you are. So when he was with family one evening in this house out in the islands, I checked around the back of the house because down the bottom of the hill from where the house is was a cafe and a big parking area,
Hmm.
and there were some vehicles there that weren't normally there. One was a van. There were two cars, and so I went around the back of the house, checked, and there were guys loitering around the back of the garden,
Hmm.
looking at the house, and I could see they had weapons even in the dark because there was enough light coming from the back of the house. I could see the shape of outline of weapons. So I made my way as quietly back to the car as possible. Got in the car, was on the phone to my boss to say, yes, the shit's hit the fan. Get him out of there. Um, which thankfully happened. And I was enough of a distraction to prevent him from getting taken.
Hmm.
Uh, so while I was getting uh, the shit kicked out of me, um, he got away.
Yeah.
So a good
Hmm.
result in that respect.
Hmm.
This was the shortest of the situations I, kind of being captive. They beat the shit out of me. They took my phone and smashed it. Um, I was in mid call, so I left it running so they could hear what at the other end they could hear what was going on, and called. They got taken out of the car. I got my jacket taken off me. I got beaten around, um, kicked and punched and knocked to the ground. They took my car keys off me, but I always had a spare set which was secured under the vehicle,
Hmm.
so I could always get back in if need be, which proved to be useful later. And I got thrown in the back of a van, a big transit van, and so there was a guy between me and the door. There was like bench seats over the wheel arch.
Yeah.
So there was a guy between me and the door. So as you go in the van, I was on the left. Guy between me and the door. a guy opposite towards the cab end. So I was hemmed between two people with weapons. But they didn't tie me, they didn't cuff me, they didn't hood me, didn't do anything. So I kind of had this horrible feeling that this is going to be a one-way trip.
Mm.
Uh, so I and I honestly, and I've said this so many times now, I honestly no idea how I managed to get saliva in my mouth because I was, yeah, this is one of those occasions, to coin an old expression, is where you find out adrenaline is brown and it runs down your leg. It's
Yeah.
not good. Um, so this guy sat between me and the door. The muzzle of his weapon was tapping my right leg as we were going down the road, and it was snowing. This is mid-March. It's snowing.
Mm.
It's about 9 o'clock at night, and there's not much traffic out because out there there's not much going on in the evenings. Everybody just shuts down and stays indoors because it's
Mm.
bloody cold and it's really dark. So there's only a little bit of traffic on the road. I knew which direction they'd gone in, and I'm thinking, so I gradually adjusted my position. So I brought my right foot back and braced it against the wheel arch,
Mm.
slipped my left foot slightly further forwards, and I leant forwards and put my head down so I wasn't making eye contact with either of them, just to make myself look as scared as possible and that I was going to be no problem. And when I felt I had enough saliva in my mouth, I grabbed the muzzle of the weapon of the guy next to me, pushed it away. So if he did fire, he'd have shot his mate.
Mm.
Lunged forward, spat everything I had in my mouth into the other guy's face, and then rammed this guy up against the door, let go of the weapon, flicked the lever of the door because it wasn't locked, and we both fell out, and I fell on top of him. He hit the deck first. It was covered in, it was about that much snow on the road.
Mm.
So the back of his head hit the deck and popped. And
Oh.
it's just, yeah, it's a sound I will never forget.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, so that was relief. I, obviously rolled and bounced
So
a little.
landing on top of him, probably as much as you will have got some significant injuries, probably saved you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because I popped my shoulder again. I twisted my knee. I had a couple of broken ribs. I've been punched in the face a few times and
Mm.
um, actually fractured my eye socket. Um,
So at this point, with the adrenaline really, it obviously is going to be through the roof. Do you actually feel pain, or you just oblivious to it?
no, no,
Mm.
I didn't. I didn't feel anything at this point.
Yeah.
Um, so when I finished rolling, I got up. I thought I was going to run, but I hobbled into the woods. There's rows of these pine trees, and what they've done is there's like troughs. It's like a ploughed field, and on the top of each trough was a row of trees, and there was
Mm.
snow and leaves in each trough. So I ran about 50 meters into the wood, then buggered off about another 60, 70 meters down and doing a dog leg, laid in one of these things and pulled snow and leaves all over me and just laid there.
Yeah.
And because there was still a little bit of traffic coming up and down the road, and I could hear a few cars going past, and they've got this guy with the contents of his head all over the road.
Mm.
Um, they didn't stop for long.
Mm.
Um, Fortunately, because if I think it was later in the day, it might well have gone differently.
Yeah.
So I guess timing wise, I'm pretty fortunate because if there'd been no traffic on the road, I think they'd have
Come back
searched
looking.
harder. Um, but so yeah, I laid there for about 45, 50 minutes till I
Mm.
was confident that they'd all buggered off, and I could hear the van door shut, and I heard them go off. I mean, they did do a little bit of a search in the woods, but
Mm.
they didn't really look for too long, which was again, I'm very lucky.
Mm.
Lucky. And then I then got up and checked and made sure everything was all clear, and it probably took me about half an hour to get out of the woods to make sure they hadn't just driven a
So
bit
they
up the
cleared the
road.
mate off the road and
Yeah. There was a big puddle of frozen claret in the snow. So,
mm.
um, and then I made my way back to the car, hoping it was still there, and it was. They hadn't done anything with it. Um, and I retrieved the spare keys that I hid, and drove back into Stockholm, got into the apartment, and had to make a phone call on Skype to let them know what was happening. It was about 5 hours later.
Mm.
Excuse me. Took a long time to get back. So because it was about an hour and a half outside of Stockholm anyway.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it
So
took a while.
out of all the kidnappings or sort of like the hostage, was that the one that you thought, yeah, I ain't coming back from this one?
Yeah, I can't do this anymore. Two kids, can't do it.
Mm. Yeah,
You know, not with two kids and a wife, and you can't. Yeah, it comes a point where you just got to go. Nah, enough is enough.
yeah, yeah. So is that part of the shoulder injury? Because for anybody that doesn't know, you've got quite a bit of metal work in your shoulder.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I dislocated it again.
Yeah,
That was 2008. And then I had two further surgeries after that.
yeah,
2 years on the bounce, 16 and 17. Ended up with it getting fused with two plates and 27 screws. Um, yeah,
mm.
lucky.
So yeah. So what was the mental repercussions then from, I mean, come on, you've seen obviously significant action over the years within war zones and things like that. And did it have a huge impact on sort of mental health and things like that?
Yeah, it did. Not straight away. There's a delay. There's a
Mm,
delayed onset of things.
mm,
Because through the job, you just become very good at parking things and boxing them up and shoving them in the back of the cupboard.
mm,
But ultimately, you know these things, Pandora's box has a way of letting the gremlins out every now and again.
yeah.
So yeah, I have had a few. I had a couple of downturns after that where I struggled,
Mm,
and I went and got help to get me through it.
mm.
We can't fix ourselves, unfortunately.
No, no.
When
So,
the problem's within here, you can't fix it with this.
mm,
It doesn't
yeah.
work. You have to get outside help.
Mm. Are you provided within the military? Is there a lot of help provided or not enough?
I mean, there is help provided when you're serving, yeah, but
Mm,
when you're outside of that, um, there's a 6 month grace period from when you leave. 6 months afterwards, you can go back to the military to get help, but after
mm,
that, you're a civilian and you're off their books, so you're part of the within the NHS system then.
mm.
Um,
So is it hard for sort of like former military to sort of reintegrate back into whatever sort of normal society sort of thing,
the
you
real
know?
world, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Is it quite tough?
it can be, yeah. I mean, for all sorts of reasons, and it doesn't matter what rank you were or what job you did. I
Mm,
think transitioning back into, because you get conditioned into being a soldier or
yeah.
whatever you are in the military.
Mm,
You are conditioned and trained to be that. There is no process to re-civilianize you. You have to
yeah,
figure that out on your own.
yeah.
And some people are better at it, naturally better equipped to do that than others.
Mm,
I think those who join early and leave early
mm,
are the least equipped to deal with it. The longer you've been in, the better, because you've got more life experience, you've got more understanding of the real world. Because very
mm,
often people, when they get married, they don't always stay in a married quarter. They quite often go and buy their own place, so they don't have to be reliant on the system for that, and they've got something of their own to fall back on when they leave. For those who think further ahead.
yeah,
Um, but the further up the ranks you are, the better equipped you are to deal with the civilian life once you leave. It doesn't make it easy, but you're just better equipped to deal with it. But people still do have wobbles. I think there was, when I ran the charity that I set up, mental health charity for veterans,
mm,
came to like about the 2.5 year period, 2.5 to 5 years after leaving, people have a wobble, and it was quite consistent. There was a definite pattern. You kind of head down, getting on with whatever you're doing, whether it's employed by a company or whether you're working for yourself in whatever capacity. About that 2.5 year point, people kind of pop up and go, bloody hell, kind of take a look around and get where they're at in their life, and
Yeah.
people are either really happy or they have doubts. And if there's any doubts or they're not happy, one of those three, if they're happy with it, they go, oh, right, okay, crack on. Let's just, everything's going well. I just need to keep doing what I'm doing.
Mm.
If there's any doubts or they're unhappy, that's when the ground starts to shake a little bit.
Yeah.
And people can quite quickly go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. So with the sort of like all the sort of like, the PTSD side, the mental health side of it, is
Yeah.
that why you ended up doing the psychotherapy, the psychology, studying that, or was it something you've always been interested in anyway?
Always been interested. I studied sports psychology while I was in the Corps,
Yeah.
and then studied behavioral psychology and then counseling
Yeah.
psychology because I was very interested in the emotional impact on mental health
Mm.
and physical health.
Yeah.
Um, and that took me. That's why I chose that path, because that was of deep interest to me, because I'd experienced really shitty levels of mental health.
Mm.
Um, and that the emotion it was the emotional impact that was the toughest. All the
Mm.
shit, all the guns and bombs and bullets and all the crash bang wallop. Yeah, fine, doesn't matter. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
But it's not being able to handle my emotions was the hardest part.
Mm.
And it's the little things that trip me up. I can deal with the big stuff, but the small day-to-day stuff really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Stupid.
But do you find as well is that it's maybe not lightning stuff, but it is sometimes that something like, oh, the cupboard's stuck shut, and it's like, it's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big thing, but
No.
then a load of little shit, and it's suddenly you just like just lose it.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. You're
Yeah.
under your shoelaces and it ties in an even tighter knot, and you're like, for fuck's sake. That shoes I've thrown around the house, but apart from the stupid little stuff like that, it's the interpersonal relationship stuff with partners,
Yeah.
that for people, that's what, because we get conditioned, particularly frontline troops
Mm.
are conditioned to deal with the big stuff and to park emotions, because emotions get in the way of making sensible, logical decisions.
Yeah.
And you tend to make really bad ones when they're emotionally driven. And in that line of work, that can get you and other people killed.
Yeah.
Um, in the real world, it can lead you to having to take both feet out of your mouth and apologize yet again. Uh,
Isn't that just known as marriage?
oh yeah, there is. There
You're a man, you're always wrong.
is. Always in the
You
shit,
should
just the
know
depth that
that.
varies.
So with the so with the techniques that you use,
Yes.
and you actually do, of course, we'll move on to,
Yeah.
and so all those techniques that you used, so anybody that doesn't know, I came to you because I was not in a good place. I was quite stuck, um and you use these techniques on me, and I've got to say, oh my God, it has been an absolute game changer. So from having quite a serious physical assault on myself, leading to broken nose, broken jaw, I didn't actually realize what an impact it had actually had on me. And the technique that you used on me, we'll go over it in a minute, and
Mhm.
what happened to me, and the biggest impact that I would say I'm back to who I was.
Mhm.
The old Claire's back. The no nonsense, no bullshit. Who the hell do you think you're talking to? Sort of girl, you know. But the alignment in my jaw, it's not going to be perfect. It never will. It needs surgical intervention to align it. But after that treatment and gradually doing the work that you gave me, my jaw is completely relaxed. So go over what obviously you're not going to give all the details away, but it cleared a lot of shit out of my life.
Yes.
Mm,
Yeah. So a three-step process that is designed that it teaches these three simple self-regulation techniques to manage your emotional state.
mm,
To be psychologically resilient, we need to be emotionally resilient first. Because if you're
mm,
emotionally flip-flopping and you can't
yeah,
keep yourself in a good state of mind emotionally, you you're being emotionally driven, running from your limbic system, which is not good. Yes, it's good for fight or flight,
mm,
but beyond that, it's very unproductive.
yeah,
Which is what you're probably holding that tension in your jaw
mm,
because of a self-protective mechanism, partly. And as you've run these techniques every day and done the practice, you've done your homework, which is, and
mm,
this is testament to it, fair play to you. That's the
mm.
way, there's no magic wand. I'm not Harry Potter. Uh,
What did I say? What? Oh, I messaged you and go, what the hell was that voodoo you did on me?
yeah. Yeah. It's not first time I've heard that sort of thing either. Um,
Yeah.
so there's three steps, really simple, as you know now.
Mm,
First one is interrupting that negative thought process
yeah,
that's going on. And the first step is called a negative thought pattern interrupt, which does what it says in the tin.
yeah,
Helps interrupt that shitty tornado of crappy thoughts, take the spin out of it, slow it down. And it's about slowing down the frequency that your brain is operating in, because anxiety, you can feel it. Your head's spinning really fast, like that tornado, that vortex of shit. And your heart rate, your breathing, your
mm,
blood pressure are all up.
yeah,
So this first step interrupts that negative thought pattern, slows your brain speed down, which starts to slow, it kicks your parasympathetic nervous system in. So you start to rest and relax.
yeah,
And your brain frequency, your brain speed comes down. Step two takes that even further and takes you from what we're in now. This is kind of beta frequency,
yeah.
from that high gamma into beta and beta into alpha. Potentially, some people drift into this theta frequency, which is where people start to nod off and fall asleep. Which is
I went as low as that, didn't I?
yes, you did.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is wonderful. What what better example can you give yourself?
Mm,
Because as you know, these I explain them and I demonstrate where needed, but you are in charge of doing these things from the very get-go. So
yeah.
you are in control of yourself from the start. So it's about
Mm,
putting the remote control for this and this back in your hand.
mm. So when we were going through that, and initially, because obviously I trusted you, we'd had a chat before,
Yep.
and that point that I started laughing, what was my brain doing at that point?
You'd reached that point of your operating frequency had gone down, disengaged that emotional
Mm,
operating system, gone back into, re-engaging your cognitive functioning, your executive functioning, your cognitive reasoning, and all the rest of it.
mm,
So you're thinking, talking, and behaving logically and rationally,
yeah,
as in this, but where you can actually see the funny side of things. Emotionally, you can't, because you're looking for threats. All you'd want to do is
mm,
kill everything in sight to protect yourself,
yeah,
or run away.
yeah,
But you'd actually seen, okay, when you get that anxiety level
Yeah.
removed, low and
Yeah.
relaxed to a point, you just start. Very often people start laughing. Some people start crying.
Yeah. And then I went into that then, didn't I? And
Yep.
I was like, oh,
Yep.
the
So
floodgates.
yeah, it's it's
Yeah.
it's that release of everything that you've been holding in
Yeah.
and building up of over a long period of time. It
Mm.
gives you the opportunity to let that go,
Yeah.
let that emotional energy out, and that's why the laughing and the crying and people start to shake. It's
Yeah.
because the body's releasing. It's like lancing a boil, getting all the shit
Such
out.
a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, but it is. It's a festering wound
Yeah.
underneath. You just let
Yeah.
all that crap out, and it's such a relief
Mm.
because it
Yeah.
eases off the pain.
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't, I don't think, how much it had an impact, because you think, oh,
Yeah,
well, it's only a broken jaw and a broken nose. Yeah. No, no,
yeah,
apart from the rest of the shit that went along with it.
yeah.
But you don't realize, and then afterwards, and then I sort of like, I went into that deeper state, and then when I sort of like, and again, you're still very aware, obviously. So anybody that's any freaking out, you're very aware of what's going on. But when I came out, it was like, oh my God, I just I just felt that the world was brighter and I
Yeah.
was lighter. Felt like I'd been on a very a good diet that was instant. But yeah, I
Yes.
felt so much lighter.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And the thing is, it's amazing what human beings can normalize and just accept
Oh
as
yeah.
this is just how it is.
Mm. Mm.
Uh, and when you get to the point where that you got to and you're at now, you've moved beyond that.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
that release um, comes in stages.
Yeah.
So that was the initial one, but there were over the next few days and weeks,
Mm.
there were more. As you practice it, you release more and more,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is why I say practice it 3 times a day for 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is that sort of like now that, so the next technique that you use, because we're not giving too much away, but I think if everybody understood the power that this can make a difference on all levels of whether you want into it, it doesn't have to be trauma, doesn't it? It has to
No.
be, you want to work towards something, whatever. It's,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely works. So the next point, what was the next bit that you did?
So after the interrupting that thought vortex of shit
Mm.
is it's a breathing technique with a little bit of physical movement
Mm.
to help slow down the brain's operating frequency even more, to take it down and to
Mm.
you get to. And again, it's self-induced. This is, I'm not doing anything. I explain it and I leave it for you to do for yourself,
Mm.
to get yourself to that end point where there isn't, your arm stops moving, your breathing goes from conscious breathing, deliberate breathing, to back to unconscious, and you allow that transition to happen, so that you end up in a position where you're sat there with your eyes closed and you're just so relaxed compared to
Mm.
how you've been, probably more than you ever have been, to be
Mm.
honest,
Yeah.
certainly for a long time.
Mm.
And then what we do is we connect the kind of the end state of that second stage to a very simple action, and it's a simple anchoring process. So it's
Mm.
what we're then doing is giving the capability to change the response to a stimulus or a trigger that you cannot change.
Yeah.
So all you're doing is you're changing your own physical, mental, and emotional response to something that you cannot change.
Yeah.
That's it. So you're in control of yourself. We can't control the shit that happens around us.
Mm.
No, bugger all influence over that very often,
Yeah.
99.99% of the time. But we can control ourselves every bloody time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we might screw it up, but we can recover quicker when we know these techniques.
Yeah.
Doesn't make us immune to making an arse of it.
Yeah.
It just means we can recover from making an arse of it damn sight faster
Yeah.
than without
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I have to say it's that from my perspective, it's made me make some better decisions. I've the boundaries that I used to have that ended up getting crossed too many
Yeah.
times, I have absolutely no problem to go, you know what? That is not acceptable. I'm not accepting that. So if you don't like it, and I have
Yeah.
no issue with that. And potentially I'm going to have to go and face the offender. And you know what? I'm actually at that point. Yeah, bring it on, honey. I have
Yeah.
no problem doing that. And that's the power of from somebody that was pretty much in a bad state. So when you use these, because obviously, I'll let people, you tell people the story that you told me on how bad it had got when you got to the bad point, but then getting through that.
Yeah, I should put a video about that yesterday. I'm assuming you're talking about the
Mm,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, because with being World Suicide Prevention Day, whoopty
Mm,
shit, what fucking day a year. Um,
yeah.
yeah. But I put a video out about this yesterday, and so I'd got to the point in the process of leaving the military where I was losing my job because I was medically discharged, which meant I was losing my house. And my first marriage was well and truly up the Swanee.
Mm,
And I didn't really know where I was going, what I was doing, what was happening, and I'd kind of lost the plot really. And as I described yesterday, I felt I'd gone down this corridor of life with either doors being shut when I got to them or shut in my face until I got to the end of the corridor and there was just this one door left
mm.
that was endgame. And it felt good actually when I made the decision. It felt so peaceful because I knew it was all going to end. I knew how I was going to do it, when I was going to do it, where I was going to do it. And I knew then that everything was going to stop and I didn't have to worry about anything anymore. So I sat on my sofa in my flat after my cup of tea and two dark chocolate digestives because I bloody love those things.
I would have thought you'd had a bloody whiskey at least.
No, just want a cup of tea. Yeah, I know. I know. Just and I sat there and, with a pistol barrel pressing against my right eyeball with my finger on the trigger and one of my oldest friends rang the doorbell because I'd phoned him earlier in the day to say goodbye without saying goodbye. And he'd picked up on something, put the phone down, got in his car, driven from Bournemouth to North London, and literally in the nick of time.
Wow.
And I was really pissed off because who the fuck is this interrupting me? Wanker. So but I didn't want anybody to hear it so I put the pistol on
I
just.
shouldn't be laughing really, but you
I
do.
know
I mean,
it's
we've
ridiculous.
actually had a chat.
It's a stupid way you think when your head's up your ass.
Yeah.
It's not logical at all. But it is in that headspace. But if you've never been in it or you're not in it at the moment, then it makes no sense whatsoever.
No, and I think sort of like, and it's like what you said, that it's actually when you look back, and you will look back in, hopefully, and think, well,
Yeah.
thank fuck I didn't do that.
Yeah, well, it's a long time ago.
Mm,
98. So yeah, it's a bloody long time ago.
mm, yeah.
Um, yeah. I mean, I can still remember what it felt like to be in that state, which is quite surreal.
Yeah. What does that make you feel when you do revisit those? Because we all revisit the shit.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's when I think about it and put myself back in that space, I feel sad, obviously,
Yeah.
and I feel sad for myself to be in that position.
Yeah.
A little bit angry with myself for allowing myself to get in that position.
Yeah.
Um, Frustrated,
Mm,
but also so I go through this array of things and grateful
mm.
for my mate turning up, and
He's
it's
probably never forgiven himself for that.
no, I know. Well, in 2 years, it will have known each other 50 years. Him and his family. I've known them 50 years. Next
Yeah.
in 2026, we'll have known each other 50 years. So we're arranging a gathering because
Oh
he's
wow.
he's got a twin brother who I was in.
That'll be a sedate do then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, his twin brother was in the I was in the Marines with him. Their younger brother, who's just a little bit older than me, because these two guys are older still, was a submariner in the Navy. So, and they've got an older sister. So we're gonna get together.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be yeah. Yeah,
There'll be a few
I can almost
hangovers
feel
there
my
then.
yeah. Oh God, I can feel my liver and kidneys twitching already.
So, but again, but all your experiences will make you, from what I liked when I came to you, it was a no nonsense, no bullshit. Oh, do you need to talk about your feelings? And it was like, because you said to me, do you want to revisit? And I went, oh God, no. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And so for some people, that's absolutely right, I
yeah,
would imagine. But I don't want some long drawn out having to go over revisit shit. It's been, it's gone, let's move on. But I think for some people that might be the very, very right thing. But
yeah,
with counselling, I know that it's like how long's a piece of string and stuff like that. How, I suppose everybody's different. How would you approach somebody, if you was working with somebody, what's your approach? I mean, obviously we were introduced on a more personal level anyway through
yeah,
Craig.
yeah. Thanks to Craig. Yeah,
You're never going to forgive him for that one either, are
he owes me.
you? Yeah, he thought he'd get you back.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a fair bit of payback required, I think.
But if you were working with somebody, how do you decide or do you let them decide what they think the right course of action is?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a conversation around, right, this is how I work.
Yeah.
There are options.
Mm,
This is what I recommend, but you
mm,
have a choice. This is not about me. This is about you.
mm.
So I'm not prescriptive per se.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm prescriptive about is teaching these three self-regulation techniques very at the outset, because
Yeah.
whatever we do afterwards, whatever therapy we go through after that for this individual, it's important they can manage themselves during a session
Yeah.
and in between sessions,
Mm,
because having that sense of self-control is hugely empowering, builds hope, and restores self-confidence and self-belief.
mm. Yeah.
And that in itself makes a phenomenal difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that for me has been life changing.
Yeah,
To actually do this and to do an interview and actually go, yeah, I'm putting it out, to the point that my confidence was rock bottom.
yeah.
And now I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. I don't care. You know
No,
what
it's
I
fantastic. I tell you what, from this side of things, it's a joy to see. It
mean?
really is.
But it's all down to you. Well, and well, actually, Craig introducing us, um, and I think from my point of view, your approach and how you're not like, oh, how are you feeling, Claire? It's just like,
Yeah,
do you need to talk about it? I was like, yeah, I don't need that. And
no,
I think you're no nonsense, and it's not harsh at
no,
all in any way, shape, form. And I think that's what makes it. And again, knowing your story, which then when I'm sat there thinking, well, what you've been through pales my broken joy to its significance.
I know, but this is the thing. There is no comparison because it's so subjective.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
anything traumatic is what is for one isn't for another because of life experience, etc. So,
mm,
um, and I think everyone needs to talk about it at some point,
yeah,
but talking about it too soon can make it worse.
Yeah. Mm,
So this is why I go down the route of, right, let's teach you to manage yourself, to self-regulate again,
mm,
so that when things, because we can't stop these things coming to mind, because that's, as I said to you before, that's either brain death or death.
yeah.
Um, so the brain is always doing something. We can't stop thoughts coming in. We can't stop other people talking about stuff that
Mm,
brings things up. Um, so we need to be able to manage ourselves and change the way we respond to the feelings that these thoughts bring up.
mm,
That's the key to it. The thoughts aren't the problem.
yeah.
Up to 80,000 thoughts in a day, and you get stuck on one or two. I mean, what the fuck?
And it's just a thought.
It is. It is. It's just one of 80,000,
Yeah.
So why you got so many thoughts come in and go, and
Yeah.
you don't pay any attention to them? But there's this. So then we need to work. It's because it's the emotional label that's connected to those thoughts that creates these feelings that come up that make us feel shit, which is why
Mm,
it sticks. So we change the way you feel about it, and then the thoughts will, like any others, like a photo album, flicking through a photo album, and you already go, "Oh God, yeah, I remember that. That was really shit. Should we have a mojito? What's for dinner? Oh shit, I forgot to do the shopping."
yeah.
So it comes in, yes, it was shit, but then you go, "Oh, move on." And it doesn't have that emotional response.
And I suppose as well for sort of like coaches and personal trainers, when you're actually working with somebody and, with food, especially, there's such an emotional
Massively.
connection with food. And it's the one thing that, you can take alcohol away from an alcoholic, you can take drugs away from a drug addict, but you can't take food away from it from a human. We need it. And I suppose these techniques would make people a much, much better coach because again, everybody's got a shitstorm in the background somewhere. We've
Yeah.
all got a story that we don't want
Yes.
to address. So I actually think a lot of every coach needs to do a session with you
Well,
to
learn,
to do some coaching or to learn your
yeah,
technique. You do a
learn these
course anyway.
techniques. Yeah, I think I designed these techniques initially as a suicide intervention piece,
Yeah.
but then it became very quickly apparent that it was applicable across a broader spectrum
Mm.
of issues.
Yeah.
So I've used it with kids with exam stress and bullying and people
Mm.
with public speaking, doing having to give a presentation at work, or driving tests, doing exams and all that sort of shit. There's so many anything that creates a stress response in someone, these
Mm.
techniques can work for.
Yeah.
So although it was initially the veteran community in the military,
Mm.
it's for humanity
Yeah.
because everyone has something that stresses them out and causes an unproductive or a non-constructive response where they screw it up.
Red wine. Yeah, sometimes that never ended well, but no, I've got to say, I've been good. But that again, we've all got our vices, and
Yeah.
a lot of people do like to judge, but yeah, I could guarantee that what my vice is was somebody else's has got one they just don't share.
Well, yeah, yeah. Everyone, we've got, and life's too friggin' short.
Oh God, yeah.
Enjoy it,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Is a shit.
So
If you're gonna judge, fuck off over there and judge. Judge yourself, not other
absolutely.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. So with you do other types of coaching as well. So what sort of other coaching do you do?
So I do leadership coaching.
Mm,
Um, and but the kind of the underpinning kind of theme within all the coaching I do is about resilience, resilience in leadership, in emotional resilience as a leader, so that
yeah.
you can, if you're leading a big organization or a big team,
Mm,
you need to be able to manage your own shit, but be vulnerable enough to shit and humble enough to share that you're in that space and go, listen, I'm no different to you. I still have to manage my own stuff. And some days I don't do it as well as I could do
yeah.
or I need to do. So
Mm,
this is where the team piece, 'cause if I'm out of order, let me know
mm,
so that I can go, because I'm not always aware that I'm being a dick.
I'm usually aware of it, I just don't care.
So leadership is about being humble and vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah,
Big part of it, and a good leader surrounds themselves with the right people to do all the things that they can't do. So that
yeah,
that creates the team. And if you can create a team of emotionally resilient people, they'll be psychologically resilient, and you will have a high performing team.
yeah, yeah.
That's what it's about. And on the individual level, it's no different in so many ways because there are different systems within us. And if we don't take care of them all,
Mm,
one thing is off, it has a knock on effect with everything else.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if we want to be high performers as an individual, then we've got to take care of our own shit.
Mm. I think what makes a good leader, so a very good high-end health club that I used to work at, I worked with some absolute asshole managers that never managed, and the best guy, Doug, that I worked with, he was such the nicest guy. You'd know if you screwed up, but you also, and he would tell you why you'd screwed up, but he would also, if you'd done something good, and he would let you know, but he would also get his hands dirty as well. Now
Yes.
he was a leader. The other ones were assholes and just sat behind the desk, had no idea what was going on the shop floor. He
Yeah.
knew everything. And then he took me into his club and goes, how would you change it? And I was just walked around. I walked into this club that he wanted me to go and manage. I didn't offer me enough money. Went in and I looked around and went, what would you do with the gym then? I won't fire them all and start again.
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, I said, your staff are awful. I mean, I've literally just walked into your office, gone on the computer and gone through all the files. Then nobody challenged me,
Yeah.
so I said, just start again. And anyway, I didn't take the job because they didn't offer me. They were about 15 grand short.
Yeah.
Oh, no. So yeah, but again, I think that's the thing of teaching people to be humble, but also teaching people that, you've also got to tell people when they're out of order.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. You can't. There's a
Mm,
dividing line, isn't there? You can't be everybody's friend as when you're leading
mm,
a
yeah.
group of people. You've got to be accountable responsible for and accountable for the decisions you make, and
Yeah.
ultimately, get everybody's head in the game to give suggestions, but then you
Mm.
make the decision.
So with yeah, so I could, yeah, I know we've got to cut this short, but I could talk to you for hours. So all the technique that you were, what I'll do is I'll put a link in the notes to your website and this
Okay.
technique thing. But that would work on like habits, so people that can't break habits of whether it's eating, drinking, not exercising, or over exercising, whatever, that would work on all that as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because there's an emotional response to something. If it's food, people eat
Mm,
for boredom, for sadness, for whatever reason that people, if there's anything that leads to a behavior based on an emotional response,
mm,
is typically a poorer decision, unless
yeah,
it's absolute survival.
yeah,
Then go all out, all guns
yeah,
blazing.
yeah,
Um, but generally in day-to-day life, emotionally based decisions usually lead to poor decisions being
mm,
made.
yeah,
So interrupting that emotional response to be able to give you the capability to step back and go, well, hang on a second. Every time I do that, I feel really shit after I do it.
mm,
Or every time I do that and I don't do it, I feel really shit for not doing it.
yeah,
Kick myself. So this self-sabotaging loop driven by an emotional response. So
mm,
when you can interrupt that, you can make a better decision, which takes self-discipline. As you know, you practice, you put the work in. The reason you've got the result you got is because you put the bloody work in.
mm,
That's
yeah,
self-discipline. It's not
Yeah.
motivation. Motivation comes and goes like the bloody wind.
Yeah.
Um, it's neither here nor there. It's
Mm,
self-discipline, and self-discipline comes from being emotionally stable and emotionally resilient.
yeah. And I think that that's the thing that I still do it. I obviously not 3 times a day so much, but I still do it, and I can use the when the shit's hitting the fan sort of thing. And I think it's that like I say, it's taught me don't apologize for who I am if you don't like it. I
Yeah,
don't really care. It's like yeah. I'm going to die one day on my in my grave. Am I really going to give a shit whether they like me or not? Probably not.
no, not going to give a
Yeah.
rat's ass.
Yeah. So, what's your big project that you're working on at the minute? Anything that you've got in the pipeline? You writing any books?
Um,
Gonna do a play or just
I'm
plan a party?
I'm writing a kids book.
Oh, what on?
It's about it's based on a prompt from my kids when they were little, asking me to tell them a story rather than read one from a book.
Right. Yeah.
I made one up, and on the spot, for some reason, in my head, I came up with a Lars the Troll.
All right.
So
Yeah.
the first book is going to be it's the adventures of Lars the Troll. It takes him from being a little kid to when he first goes to troll school, sent away to troll school. So it's kind of based around my life a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but it will be more so in the second book from when he goes to troll school and what happens there.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
but there's kind of it brings in Norwegian myth and legend.
Yeah.
He's in a, a stubborn, pig-headed, curious, adventurous little soul who gets into all sorts of mischief.
I can't imagine who it's based on at
No
all.
idea. Absolutely no idea.
Yeah. So have you got an illustrator? Have you got in your head what Lars
Oh, God.
looks like?
Yeah. I know exactly what I want it to look like. But I don't have an illustrator yet. No, no.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So yeah, I need one. So anybody's interested who sees this and is an illustrator or is just a bloody good artist.
I used to go to, I used to be an art student many, many years ago. And there was
Really?
a guy, and I think he's probably on my Facebook actually. I'll hit him up and see if he still does.
Okay.
I don't know what he does anymore, but yeah, he would be pretty cool. Yeah. He had some, he was great. I was terrible. I think I just went to art school to get pissed and party, really.
Fair enough. Why not?
It's good. It worked.
It's creative.
It was. It was very creative. Yeah, but yeah, it was good. I did a year, and I was like, yeah, you're not that artistic, Clay. You're just weird. So stuff like that. So
Good.
when are you expecting this to? Have you actually drafted the story?
Oh God, yeah, I've got all the chapters done. I'm just working on smoothing it out,
All right.
going through the editing process.
Yeah. So do you do all the editing and everything as well?
Yeah, I'm using a piece of software online, Pro Writing Aid.
Oh, right. Okay. So, that'll
I
be
need.
interesting. So when are you expecting? Do you have a date?
I'd like to launch it in the new year.
All right. I'll get looking for an illustrator for you.
Yeah, please, any help? Yeah, I need because yeah, trying to get it
Yeah.
done. And I'm going to self-publish this first one because it's just easier.
Yeah. Oh, will it be on Amazon?
Yes, it will be.
Yeah. And you've got a book as well. Tell them about the book.
The book.
Yeah.
This
That's
is
on
the,
Amazon too, as well, isn't
that's
it?
on Amazon. This is the slightly older version, but
Yeah.
this is teaches the take explains the techniques
All
uh,
right.
that I just spoke about.
Yeah.
Um, and I know I have a friend well, he's retired from the police now in Wales who bought a copy of this, read through it, used the very first technique, the negative thought pattern interrupt, with one of his officers because he was the involved with crisis and hostage negotiation and
Mm.
suicide intervention stuff, all the crisis intervention piece, and he used it with one of his officers who dealt with a suicide.
Ooh.
Um, and was struggling a little bit, and he taught him that technique without me teaching anything, and it worked a treat with his officer. So,
Ah,
yeah, so yeah,
that's a good thing to get. So I could talk to you for hours. You are a truly fascinating guy. So I appreciate your time.
Just a
And
weirdo.
I will put a link to your show notes in the and your website and everything. So
Thank
anyway,
you.
thank you, Simon. It's been an
Pleasure.
absolute pleasure.
No, loved it. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Claire.